Well, there are some impactful changes that are coming to the Electoral College. This is potentially going to help Donald Trump and hurt Joe Biden, and it is understandable based off of these states, the sentiment, why people are leaving, why we're seeing populations change in some of these states. And it's gotten to the point where 13 states total going into 2024 had changes. 7 lost a vote. California, heavy liberal. Illinois, heavy liberal. Michigan, swing state. New York, liberal. Ohio, lean Republican. Pennsylvania, swing state. West Virginia is a Republican state. And 5 gained a vote. Colorado, more liberal. Florida, conservative. Montana, conservative. North Carolina, lean to the right. Oregon, progressive. And then Texas got 2 votes, not 1, but 2. So overall, this is a positive change. You can see Republican-leaning states gained 2 votes in the Electoral College, and Democrat-leaning states lost 2. But the real impact on the changes is much larger than the 4-vote swing. The altercations make it possible for Trump to win the 2024 election with fewer states than was required in 2020. I don't know if South Dakota, they must have gotten another electoral vote in 2020 because I thought they had 4 votes, and I thought this year they gained 1, but they must have gained 1 in 2020. And I guess Montana now has 4 as well. So South Dakota and Montana, I believe North Dakota still has 3. Come to think of it, I might be thinking about Idaho. Idaho had a major population surge. But yes, there are going to be slightly more scenarios now for Trump, which could be extremely important. I understand a lot of people think at this point, Trump should win the election relatively easily. He might even win the popular vote, but you just never know, especially with states like Wisconsin, Michigan. By the way, how about that Wisconsin Quinnipiac poll? Are we still doing it with Quinnipiac? I don't know why they're still even there. Quinnipiac, and people were finding stuff on their polling in 2020. I believe they had Biden. Every poll they had done in Florida, they had Biden winning. A month before the election, they had Biden up 11 in Florida, and Trump won it by 3.5 points. I don't know why Quinnipiac is used. I don't know why it's put into the algorithm there with Real Clear Politics, but it really messes it up. And then they say, well, Rasmussen is pro-conservative. Well, they didn't even count the Rasmussen poll where Trump was up 12. So Quinnipiac just skews everything. It's sad they're still counted. Their polling is still clearly off. They want to say that, oh, we're going to use a sample that's +5 for the Democrats in a state like Wisconsin. That makes no sense. And they're saying Biden's up 6 in a swing state like Wisconsin. He's got the worst approval rating in history. I'm not saying Biden can't win Wisconsin, but his approval rating is going to have to improve. The law of averages, and also just the idea that Trump is more popular at this point than Biden. I guess anecdotally, you could say, well, maybe Wisconsin thinks a little bit differently, but in general, I think that's a ridiculous poll. It should not be taken seriously, but there are also bad polls on the right. I'm not saying anything, but in general, you have to understand, people leaving California, even liberals coming out and admitting it's terrible. California at this point, I don't know if you guys saw, oh my God, the tax that they introduced, and it's the Democratic administration, it's not Biden, it's the Democrats in general. The tax that they introduced, 44% capital gains tax. And why are these people acting like being a millionaire is this exclusive club? We're dealing with 19% inflation since Biden took over in 2020. It's really not 3%. That's a yearly rolling average. It's actually 19%. People have done the math. Since Biden took over, that's what it is. And then they say, oh, we're only going to tax people that earn over $1 million. Like it's like, oh, if you earn over $1 million, you're insanely rich. Meanwhile, in California, to buy a mud shack, it costs $700K in and of itself. I get you're buying the land, not the actual home. But still, it's ridiculous. You would think these people would understand. I don't know why. And listen, California, great weather. If you've got the money, I guess. It is the amount of taxes you're potentially going to be paying. People are now estimating some of these taxes 59% because you've got the crazy state tax. You've got a potential 44% capital gains tax. The estimate is well over 50%. And Illinois has the same problem. And they also do have crime issues, don't get me wrong. California, Illinois, New York, when you're soft on crime, you only embolden criminals. And with the Democrats, their policy, because they're so obsessed with race, well, we can't prosecute these people because they're minorities. It would look bad. It's racist. So we have to just let them out of jail. And it just keeps getting worse. You're pushing a snowball down a hill, and it's getting worse and more powerful and more uncontrollable as well. The only way to change those places is some type of Republican leadership that immediately cracks down on all. Actually, I'm not even sure it's savable because the homeless problem is so catastrophically bad in California. Ohio also lost one. That doesn't surprise me too much. Pennsylvania and West Virginia. But in general, it is positive because Texas gains 2. And obviously, Texas is not flipping to the Democrats anytime soon. It's interesting to see Colorado get 1 as well, which is going to be a Democratic win in 2024. But either way, we're also seeing that Democrats have come out and they're for illegals counting in the census to potentially give them more power in Congress and the Electoral College. So think about this for a second. The Democrats are forced to say, we want to count illegal immigrants when it comes to the census so we can try and get more electoral votes back into states like California, New York. Yes, our state leadership is so bad, people, even liberals, have to admit, and they have to flee because of the crime and the ridiculous taxes, but we can supplement the loss in terms of everyday Americans having to flee our state with illegals, and then we'll gain the Electoral College vote back. The irony is amazing. They're so bad at governing at the state level, people have to flee the states, and then the only way to keep those states populated to where they still have the proper number of electoral votes that they want them to is to pump the state full of illegal migrants. It is crazy. Apparently this didn't pass. This was a very confusing thing here. He says House Dems just voted unanimously to give illegals representation, but you can see it didn't pass. The Republicans unanimously voted against it, 206, the Democrats at 202. They're saying that Biden could veto it. It might go through. It'll be something to watch, but it just goes to show you how ridiculous this whole charade is, to where it's like, yes, we might suck at governing at the state level and everyone's fleeing our states, but it's okay. We'll get that electoral vote back by pumping the state with illegal immigrants. And it is really sad. And this is the issue when you incentivize illegal immigration and these migrants coming across the border, and then you gaslight Americans and say, we just want everyone to have a simple, easy path to citizenship. Well, yes, because they're more likely to vote for you. And then I thought this was a fake headline. It's basically saying that the protesters of Israel could be sent to Gaza under the new House GOP bill. I am going to bet that these pro-Hamas supporters wouldn't last a day, but let's give them the opportunity. It just seems like a fake headline. Here's a one-way ticket to the Gaza Strip. Mark Zuckerberg will pay for your flight. I mean, what a headline that is. My goodness. And then, by the way, even Real Clear Politics now, he's actually reaching a record low. It's getting really bad. He's under 40% in the total average. This photo was taken a few days ago. I think it's around 39.5 approval at this point. But I just cannot see any scenario, if these are the numbers, Biden winning. And then they say, well, because Republicans are so dumb, Trump is the only guy that Biden can beat. Yeah, well then why is Trump more liked right now than Biden, dumbass? I could understand if Trump was historically disliked and you could say, well, Biden, his approval rating, it's the worst in history by 8 points, but Trump, he's even somehow worse going into the 2024 election, but those are not the numbers we're seeing. We're seeing Trump, on average, routinely with a higher approval rating than Biden going into the 2024 election, sometimes by 5, 6, 7 points. So that argument really can't be used because that's the only thing they're clinging to. They're like, yes, we admit Biden sucks, but you idiot conservatives, you elected the one guy that Biden can beat. Then why is Trump's approval rating 7 or 8 points better? So see how none of their arguments make any sense? And look, it's an election. Anything can happen. there's going to be several very close swing states. Wisconsin's going to be 50-50. Michigan's going to be basically 50-50. Pennsylvania as well. I will say another important thing. If we were going into the election, those states, like if the election was tomorrow, those states would not be 50-50. I will say that. I would have Trump as the favorite in every one of those states. If Trump is winning the popular vote polls, I would be shocked if he lost, especially all those 3 Rust Belt states. Now, technically, I mean, we saw what happened in 2020 where Biden won all of them by like 10,000 votes, and then they acted like he won in a landslide because they ran up huge numbers in California and New York. But in general, I think this is an emphasis that the Democrats are trying to improve right now. That's why you see Biden making a few more public appearances, and they're all train wrecks. He just can't coherently talk. So I don't understand the plan. The plan has to be trying to use the corrupt court systems to your advantage, because right now, even if you want to argue that Trump is divisive, he's unlikable, it's remarkable that Biden is even more unlikable. And going into the 2020 election, Biden enjoyed a 15% advantage in terms of likability over Trump. And that was before Biden ran. You could say, well, he's got an incumbent advantage now. It might actually hurt him based on what's going on with his approval rating. So I would imagine the courts have to be the play for the Democrats, which we know is totally unconstitutional. But a lot of people just look at this stuff surface level. So if they can do something and possibly get Trump, they are going to scream about that. And they can also possibly weaponize social media in maybe a different way, because we saw in 2020 they silenced a story that was real, and that was the October surprise. Could we see the Democrats make up a story in 2024 and maybe people think it's real, and possibly going into the election you see something like that? We've already got RFK coming out saying, yes, they've censored several of my ads. Facebook is. Zuckerberg, massive Democrat donor. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but maybe there's going to be some type of weaponization of social media. They're going to have to do something. These numbers are not going to suffice for Biden. There's going to have to be a secret weapon that they're going to have to pull out in some form or another, because I just can't see Biden crawling out of the hole that he's dug himself in, because I just don't think he is capable at this point. He's just too old. I know it's a boring answer, but when you watch Biden talk, it's just not... I cannot see people being enthused to go vote for that. And I know the argument is, well, they're going to be enthused to vote against Trump. But even the fear-mongering with World War III, that doesn't even work now. That's just an insult to Americans' intelligence. We've had far more wars under Biden than under Trump. And even if you want to say that's anecdotal, it still doesn't allow you to use the argument that, oh, under Trump, we're for sure going to get World War III, when it's been the exact opposite with peacetime under Trump versus the current situation we have with Biden. So all of the arguments fail. There has to be a secret weapon they pull out, because right now it's just not working. So we'll see what ends up happening, guys. But either way, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.